Good afternoon. Welcome to a rather sombre edition of the Gain Line today. Wales are out of the Rugby World Cup. England are in the final, and Mondays don't get much worse than this, do they? Rugby correspondent Simon Thomas is here to help pick us all up off the canvas, and as always we want your questions and comments, so please do get sending them through. Simon, 24 hours on, the deflation's still there?
I was considering wearing black, John, but I'm told that I merge into this backdrop if I do that, so I've gone for more regulation. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think last night I just sat there and I think it was just quite depressing, really. It is, isn't it? It's like, and you end up going through the what-ifs and the if-onlys and frustrations, but we are where we are. They just came up short. Yeah. I mean, well, we'll go into the questions because there's lots of things to talk about, really, I think, now that you've had time to sort of ponder over what happened. Yeah,
plenty of questions that have already come in on your social media feed. Mark here saying, could they have done anything different tactically? Lots of people thinking, did they kick too much? Could they not have tried to play a bit more?
I mean, it's been a constant thing since the end of the game, really. It's difficult. I think certainly Wales did get lured into the kind of kicking game that South Africa played. They kicked 40 times, we kicked 41. There was a lot of aerial ping pong. You look at the reasons they kick, and people come out of the channel and say, why don't they just move it wide? Why are they kicking so much? It is difficult. Kicking is such a huge part in the modern game. I think it would probably be fair to say that some of the kicking Wales did put in wasn't the most accurate and not the best, but I can see why there was a lot of kicking. You tend to kick in rugby if you're unable to cross the gain line and the ball becomes particularly slow. Now, we had a sort of very telling stat which we were looking at this morning, which is that the average Wales carry in the game was 1.6 metres, which is
record
low,
World Cup game,
which says two things really to me. It says that we don't have an array of enormous ball carriers. We're not very big. We're not a huge nation, and you're also up against a hugely muscular, aggressive blitz defence, and they just knocked us back. I mean, the classic one for me was the lead up to the drop goal attempt from Rhys Patchell. There was a line-out ball when Wales went through 10 phases, trying to make some headway, maybe lure a penalty, cross the gain line, or maybe, as I say, set up the drop goal. But if you look where they ended up, it was about 5 to 10 yards further back than where they started, because they were just knocked back in the tackle repeatedly. Comes to a point, you say, well, we keep on going back, we've got to try the drop goal sometime. And when they did, it was like from 45 metres. Faf was faffing around in front, de Klerk is in front of Patchell. It went well wide and short, So it is really difficult when you're being knocked back. Wales are at their most threatening in attack of set-piece ball. When it was one-on-one, perfect example of the try. You can understand why Alan Wynne-Jones now went for it. It seemed like a gamble, but it did create that one-on-one, challenging the opposition in that respect without the controlled fanning, because what they were very good at South Africa. They would put a lot of teams would put 2 or 3 people in to contest a ruck on the counter ruck. They didn't need to. They had Pieter-Steph du Toit. He is like a one-man ruck wrecker, and the number of times where he was spoiling caused him such a pain in the neck, and he would just slow Welsh ball down. And he was able, because he was so effective doing that virtually on his own, it meant the box could just fan out. So when the ball did come out, you were running into this green and gold wall. I do think, on reflection, I think Wales missed Josh Navidi, because Ellis Jenkins, we were talking to him in the week of one of our outdoor Facebook Live podcast, and he said you don't realise just how effective Navidi is until he's not there, because that ball is just that one split second slower, and you're thinking, why is that? Oh yeah, Josh isn't here, because his clearing out is such a big part of his game. Moriarty had a great game in other ways, but I think Wales just lacked that from Navidi, and it meant the ball was slow. It's a long-winded way of saying, basically, we ran into a brick wall.
Yeah, we did indeed. What about the killer penalty towards the end? Nobody wants to be accused of sour grapes. I think we all probably agree South Africa just about deserved the win, but as the hours have passed, there's been quite a bit of controversy about the penalty that effectively won the game. Rhys Carey, we think, we're pretty sure was the person penalised, but it appears he actually accidentally fell over a stray South African body, and plenty of suggestions that it was never a penalty.
I'm quite happy with a bit of sour grapes. It was actually, if you look at it, you can go further back, because there was piggyback penalties.
Yeah.
Wales were on the attack. After that drop goal, they had the ball again, went through another couple of phases. Alan Wynne-Jones was pinged for holding on with Francois Lowe over the top, and him Lowe's brilliant at it. But interestingly, Rob Debney, former England official, former international referee, has done a column in the Times today where he's scrutinised that incident, and he's pointed to the fact that Mostert, the replacement second row, actually blocked off Elliot D in clearing out, which meant that the clearer Lowe wasn't there from D or one of the other players, which meant he was able to be over the ball, and he actually felt that it should have been a penalty the other way round to Wales, which should have been kickable. Wales could, there's loads of ifs and buts, but when you look at his explanation of it and you see the still footage, it does look a bit dubious what most did. But you get away with what you get away with, and they got the penalty. They took it, they kicked the other end. The one thing we'd really feared, was the South African driving maul. They got it going. It wasn't really moving with huge momentum, and I've studied the footage of that today. And what you can see, I'd spotted Carey falling over legs, but it was how it happened. It's interesting. Dwayne Vermeulen, the South African number 8, actually kind of fell backwards out of the maul, and as he went to ground and as it spun round a little bit, Carey then tripped over his legs, found himself on the ground. Now, on television yesterday, ITV was saying they thought it was down to Dylan Lewis coming in from the side. But Andy Howell, our colleague, had been listening to the ref, Mike, and it's pretty clear that he said the Welsh player off his feet. Now, that could only be really Carey, because he was off his feet, and the means with which he fell to the ground was not really his doing. I mean, listen, it's hard, isn't it? Did we see that live?
No, we didn't.
No, exactly. Maybe that's maybe you're just thinking, when it's such a pivotal call, should he maybe have checked that? I don't know. It's a difficult one. But it went against Wales. 2 decisions there which could have gone the other way, and those are the small margins. Listen, overall, I think South Africa just about deserved it. They deserved it because probably their tactics suited the way they wanted to play, whereas ours getting drawn into the arm wrestle, although we couldn't really avoid it to a certain extent, their tactics probably worked better, and they just had that power and that brute force, and those boys coming off the bench. But you still end up thinking, oh, look at those. I don't want to look at them. I can't look at them anymore, John.
And ironically, of course, we had the best part of 15,000 South African fans calling for Garces to be taken off the game prior to it happening.
I don't think they're complaining now.
I don't think they are. What about Mr. Garces then? Before this weekend, I think the general consensus was he was the favourite to get the final, given that Nigel Owens had the one 4 years ago. But given the way the weekend games have gone, I think Nigel had a good game in that first semi-final. Do you think that is...
I just penned a piece on it now, looking at the options. I mean, first of all, do we look beyond those two? Probably not. The pre-tournament favourite would have probably been Wayne Barnes, but he, it's his 4th and final World Cup. But he can't do it now because England are in the final. I'm sure he's delighted for his country, as Nigel would have been if Wales had made it. Indeed. Other options, Romain Poit is a very experienced referee, but he seems to be in the French pecking order, just behind Garces. There obviously was that incident early on in the tournament where Poit gave 2 yellow cards when both were overturned and made it into reds. So Garces seems ahead of him. Nick Berry's had a good tournament, but he's inexperienced. Piper out of the equation as well. Because South Africa are in it, and he may have sort of been ruled out anyway after the sort of injudicious photograph situation. So really, it does seem to come down to Garces against Nigel. I personally thought, obviously we wear Welsh hats here, we can't help it. But I thought Nigel had a better World Cup semi-final. There was so much going on in that New Zealand game, so much going on. And how anybody's supposed to keep complete control of that. But I thought he was calm and assured. He brought all his experience to bear. And what I like in particular is the clear and concise communication of the decisions. People have pointed to the 2 England disallowed tries, questioned them, particularly the second one, which is a very technical little issue at the maul prior to Ben Young's going over for the try. But I mean, it's important to say that both of those were really called by Marius Jonker, the South African TMO, and Nigel explained them both. I thought he just handled the game well and let it flow, and there was no coincidence. You compare the flow of the 2 games.
They were slightly different games.
Garces had a decent enough game, I thought, but it was suitably French laissez-faire, shall we say, at the break. There didn't seem to be a lot of control until right at the end.
Final 10 minutes.
And as I say, those were two key decisions, which were 2 big goals and 2 contentious calls. I think personally, I think Nigel couldn't have done a lot more to get the final. Whether they will feel that it's a close enough call to go with the man who hasn't done one before, and as such it might be Garces. We don't know. It's up to World Rugby, and we'll find out at about, I think, about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, overnight.
Middle of the night, when I get up for
that. Yeah, probably not one maybe to get up for, but be interesting to see in the morning. Okay, thanks, Simon. We'll leave it there. Now, rugby being rugby, there's been a bit of a ding-dong between Eddie Jones and Warren Gatland over the last 24 hours or so. We'll go into what Eddie's had to say overnight shortly, but here's what Warren Gatland said after the Wales game yesterday that sparked it all.
If they've got the physicality to match England, I thought England were outstanding last night. So, yeah, they've got a very good chance. They might need to be a bit more expensive in terms of the way they want to play, because they had a very pretty simple game plan tonight in using Delande in terms of from the scrums and a lot of box kicking from de Klerk and from Pollard as well. But it was very effective, and I think for them it was about making the final and doing whatever that they could to make the final. So we've seen in the previous World Cup sometimes teams play their final in semi-finals and don't always turn up for a final. So it'd be interesting to see how England are next week, but I think it should be a good game.
Okay, we heard Warren Gatland there suggesting England might have already played their final. This is what Eddie Jones had to say in response overnight. He says, guys, can you just send my best wishes to Warren to make sure he enjoys the 3rd and 4th place playoff. Bit of a classic Eddie Jones out there. A bit snide, a bit unnecessary, or a bit of fun.
It's too soon, Eddie. It's too soon, Eddie. It's too raw.
It was quite a throwaway comment from Gatland, really, amongst an answer about South Africa, really, but...
It's all classic knockabout stuff, isn't it? I think those two probably get on quite well. They'll probably, at some point, have a beer over the weekend, and it's all banter, isn't it? And, but then obviously it's easier to banter when you're in the final, isn't it? And hey, listen, it's an interesting, more serious point. The issue that Warren Gatland has raised. Have they had their World Cup final? I mean, I think it's safe to say it would be difficult to top that performance against New Zealand, but I think they're on a roll. They are, the way they're playing. They are in a different situation to Wales. Wales were kind of limited what they could do against South Africa. I mean, if you look at the people they were without, it's just important to remember this list. No Faletau, no Anscombe, no Ellis Jenkins. They lose Navidi. They lose George North during the match. They lose Thomas Francis. They lost Liam Williams before the match. You've taken out a lot of key core players. We know about Rhys Webb for other reasons. A lot of players there who would have been, really on that field if it wasn't for the injury situation. I think really to have got as far as they did and stayed in the tournament and contested it so tightly, because I did fear a little bit South Africa bulldozing them. It was a great effort. They just ran out of the tools at the end. They ran out of weapons. They ran out of people to make a difference. They're people held together by sticky tape. So it's happened, and Wales are out. Whereas I think they were limited in what they could do because of the absentees. Whereas England, they can take on South Africa face to face, as Wales did physically, but they can play other ways as well. They've got the likes of Anthony Watson, who can offer a real counter-attacking threat from the back, whereas Wales struggled to get quick ball at the breakdown because of Dutoit and other players. They've got Curry and Underhill, who are standing form in this tournament, whereas we didn't have big ball carriers. They've got Itoje, they've got Billy Vunipola, whereas we struggled over the ball. They've got Itoje there, they've got Underhill. They can address the challenges South Africa produced, and South Africa didn't offer a huge amount creative wise, whereas England did. So I think I can understand why Eddie's in quite bullish mood.
Buoyant mood, yeah, okay. For Wales then, it's Friday. It's a game against the All Blacks. We mustn't forget that amidst the disappointment, not to be sniffed at. It's the game nobody wants to play, they always say. What sort of team do Wales put out for this game, particularly with all those injuries? Because it's Warren Gatland's last game. We haven't beaten the All Blacks for a long, long time. It would be some story for him to go out with a win against them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hoped for a Wales-New Zealand match, just not this one. I hoped it was the final. I thought it would have been perfect for Gatland. I mean, in a way, people say no one wants to play in the 3rd and 4th place playoff. Let's be honest. If Wales win these games, we'll be having Western Mail supplements for weeks, won't we? We haven't beaten them since 1953. And it would be, in that sense, that would be a wonderful send-off for Gatland.
Yeah.
The one team he's not beaten, really, during his reign as Wales coach. But it's going to be difficult. I mean, they don't lose 2 games on the trot too often. They want one to end it up. I'd say Wales, in a sense, have got more motivation, because beating South Africa and New Zealand would be so huge historically. Whereas for New Zealand, even if they win comfortably, finishing third is still seen as a failure.
It is Hanson's last game.
It is Hanson's last game. But whatever way you look at it, they're a strong team. They're a really strong team. And we at Current, are we going to be able to get 23 players on the park before the game?
Well, so similar Owen Lane, who obviously only arrived a matter of days ago, he's going to feature in this game, isn't he?
He is. I mean, George Northam, he looked like he popped his hamstring. You can't see him be involved. Thomas Francis, that looked a nasty stinger to the shoulder. We're down on numbers at tight head. Probably Wyn Jones will have to be back at tight head within the 23. I mean, you could see changes, couldn't you? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, for example, if they went Thomas Williams and Pacho at half-pack. I think against New Zealand, although England kept them, to 7 points, that's pretty rare. New Zealand tend to score over 20 points. I think Wales are going to have to try and create a little bit more, so you might see those two starting. I think possibly 1 or 2 players who've been quite close might get a start, like Adam Beard possibly in the second row. Had a bit of physicality and height there. And in the front row, you wonder whether both... I think definitely Dylan Lewis is going to start. Big challenge for him. Might Carey start? Might Rhys Carey start? Might they feel that that's too much inexperience there? And in the back line, I mean, as I say, we've talked about the 2 centres, how they've kept going, nobody knows really.
Yeah, it's hard to see them risk it. Well, Jonathan Davis particularly.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Parks has played more minutes in this World Cup than anybody else. I mean, if anybody's kind of due a rest, it's him, and he's carrying injuries. I mean, he didn't really come to take the ball on those short lines that we know against South Africa. You wonder what state he's in. Whereas Jonathan did get through it, didn't he? And and showed good hands to the try. Maybe it might be, but I think either way, I think Owen Watkin will come in for one of them. One of them. And as I say, Owen Lane, Hallam Amos had a game out there. It didn't quite go his way. Owen Lane's come over. I wouldn't be surprised if Owen starts, which would be some story.
Yeah. Okay, then let's whiz through a few questions before we finish. We've had plenty of them. Tom Williams asks, new regime obviously coming in after the World Cup. What do you think Pivac and his team have to do to just get that little bit extra out of this Wales team?
Well, Pivac and Stephen Jones play a different style of rugby. If you look at the success the Scarlets have had under them the last couple of years, particularly when they won the Pro 14 title, they're a team that thrives off of turnover ball. So I think one thing you can certainly say is they will want to have somebody in that pack of forwards who is particularly adept at earning turnovers and earning steals. Someone like James Davis. I mean, he was the man who did it for them. Ellis Jenkins, fingers crossed he comes back like he was. I think someone like that might come in the equation. Someone who goes hard on the ball and looks for those turnovers. And they do like to play an offloading, fast game. The big challenge for me, Stephen Jones is a quality backs coach, I believe. Wayne Pivac's a good man manager, looking at the overall thing. The big challenge is stepping into the shoes of, in the back division in terms of Sean Edwards, in terms of defence rather, because those are tough shoes to fill. And I know that Wales have creaked a bit defensively in this tournament, and again the try conceded against South Africa was soft in terms of what we were expecting, but over the whole passage of the 10 plus years he's been pivotal to it, and I think how they tackle that defensive challenge of replacing him, that's a big thing. So Byron Hayward, I guess, the man to do that really. Okay, absolutely. One from Chris then, where are Wales's ball carriers coming from in the future? We've talked about it being a big issue for a long time. Are there people out there who are on the verge of breaking through? No, I mean, I watched the age group games, or the under-20s. I mean, if you look at the players coming through, like from our age groups, this young man of the Dragons called Tain Basham was fantastic talent in the back row. But he's not 6'4" and 20. He's not Dwayne Vermeulen, He's another classy little open side. Ollie Griffiths, another one for the Dragons. Dynamic carrier, but not huge. We just don't produce huge people. If you look at the best number 8 we've had over the last, 10, 15 years, Felipe Faletau. But I mean, a lot of his ability was quick feet. And, he's someone who sort of develops as the game goes on. We haven't had, like Moriarty's big, but he's not enormous. We just don't produce these people. I mean, that's why you can see why they've fast-tracked Rhys Carey, because he is unusual.
Man, yeah.
He's unusual, so it's difficult, short of the Quinnell dynasty producing a few more.
Anyone coming off the line?
It's just hard, isn't it? And so, but the interesting thing is that, does that mean, given that we do have a shortage of ball carriers, does that tie into maybe moving to a different style of play where we try and avoid contact more, use quick feet, and use the handling flair, which might be what Pivac and Stephen Jones look to do.
The Japan way, maybe.
But then again, they got bashed up by South Africa as well.
Indeed. Maybe not the Japan way. Then. Okay, one from Mark here says, he may have been mocked for being out of touch, but ultimately was J.J. Williams correct? This is obviously referring to the comments he made before about having Dan Bigger at 10, saying Wales wouldn't be able to win the World Cup with him. Is that a bit harsh?
It's a bit tough on Dan, because I don't think the problems really lay there primarily. As I said, you can have the best 10 in the world, I think Bowden Barrett would struggle, behind, slow ball like Wales had. It is difficult. I do, though, think, and I've said this before, that the loss of Gareth Anscombe was a massive blow, because that pairing of Anscombe, his creativity, his little dinks through, his range of passing, combined with the navigational skills of Dan Bigger to see you home, was a really good template. And I think it did put a heck of a lot of pressure on Bigger to be both things. And Patchell, contributed. But I think Anscombe's loss, that was a big blow. Yeah,
following on from that, then is a final question from Steve. Who out of all the players who were injured either before the tournament, during the tournament, do you think Wales missed most when it really mattered?
Anscombe and Faletau. Yeah, I think Anscombe to give the greater breadth of creativity and attacking threat. And Faletau was just simply world class.
You forget it's been a long time since we've had him properly in the team.
Has.
What a difference he made.
And Wales have got by and done well in his absence, but I just think he would bring that against the likes of South Africa, where you need the quick feet to get you just running straight into them ain't going to be the answer, is it?
No, indeed. Okay,
as we learned.
Indeed. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your comments and questions. As always, we will be back again tomorrow and for the rest of the week until the World Cup finishes. Same time, same place. We'll see you then.